Cardin.
Pierre Cardin.
Pierre.
You know, Pierre Cardin.
Il s'est pas servi des livres d'histoire pour faire ses créations. Il a inventé un style.
C'est un architecte.
C'est un homme d'affaires.
A little bit of a sellout.
Une contradiction.
Homme de théâtre, homme de cinéma.
A control freak.
A label, a logo, a legend.
Bâtisseur, créateur, un génie.
Génie, un génie.
You know, I gotta tell you, just watching, Sharon Stone and I actually attended the same university. Edinburgh University is where I attended college first before transferring to Cheyney University of Pennsylvania, which is the oldest HBCU. So to see Sharon Stone and to see Naomi Campbell and to see Dionne Warwick, just warmed my soul in such a tremendous way, because I didn't realize how much of an advocate he was for diversity. So can you talk a little bit, David, just about making sure you had people like Dionne Warwick included in the documentary and Naomi Campbell, and just to speak about, how he advocated, in such a big way, for diversity. He was an ally.
It was key to get those kind of voices into the film. And it's interesting because he's one of those people that did it extremely naturally. It was not an agenda per se from his point of view, except for within his being, that he happens to just be someone who sees the world globally, internationally, and in this much more diverse way. When you think about that, he came into the Paris fashion world in 1945, and at that point, fashion was only for rich, white French women. The runways of Paris, everyone looked the same. There was no interest, or even no idea. It's not even that there was an interest. No idea that you should do it in any other way. Pierre Cardin came from very modest means. All the rest of the designers of that era are extremely wealthy and, from the manner born. So he just naturally had it within him to see a broader spectrum. And so when he went to Japan in 1957, he was invited there to teach. He met this woman, Hiroko Matsumoto, who became his muse.
One moment,
because he saw her as somebody who represented his creativity, his vision, and brought her back to Paris. He actually sort of forced her to come back to Paris. She cried. She didn't want to leave. Julie Mendez, who is, what's her nationality?
India.
She's from India. And
wow.
The first dark models that ever graced the runways of Paris. It was within his DNA to say, why wouldn't we include these people? And so when Dionne Warwick says in the film, I saw people who looked like me, and you realize how transformative that is.
So powerful, so transformative. I mean, when, we think of fashion, for so long, women of color were not included, and women of color are the biggest consumers of all things fashion. We love it, we live for, we want to be a part of it.
Yeah, the concept of beauty, that you're redefining what it means to be beautiful by including, these extremely beautiful women.
Well, Dionne Warwick told us too, it was very interesting that she loved going to Europe back in the 60s. And she loved Pierre Cardin because she said it was really rare for her to walk into a designer boutique and Pierre Cardin came up and said, oh, what an honor to have you in my store. Can I help you? And she was like, wow. Like that.
Right.
And well, that one scene in the documentary, please forgive me for cutting you off, but when she, I think she was meeting with one of his assistants, and the assistant was like, you must wear Cardin. You must wear Cardin. I fell out. Such a great moment in the documentary. You must wear Cardin. She was like, they were throwing out my clothes. I didn't know what was happening. I didn't know them. They didn't know me. And they were like, you must wear Cardin. I just thought that was like one of the most classic lines throughout the documentary. What do you gentlemen think of fast fashion today? With the advent of social media and this, instant gratification that we need, to showcase what it is that we're wearing. People discard clothes as if they're nothing. High fashion couture with Pierre Cardin and so many other designers, from his ilk, were creating art. Fashion is art. So when you think of fast fashion, what is your thought process about, fast fashion?
Well, it's interesting though, because Cardin is also the person who invented pret-a-porter. Didn't invent, he popularized pret-a-porter.
Well, he really democratized fashion.
And so he had both high and low inside of what he was designing and doing. He both kept up the couture line, because through the couture line, you appeal to the masses who then want to be associated with your brand because it lifts them up in life. And so the idea of streetwear comes almost as a direct line from Mr. Cardin and his deciding to open up fashion to the masses, to people. And the idea of putting labels out on the front of what you wear comes from his sort of cheeky idea of putting PC up front on the front of his design.
Remember,
design items.
Because of Pierre Cardin, we are label queens today. He was the one who said, why put it back here? Put it right here and let people say it.
Yeah. I love that.
We really wanted Dapper Dan in the film because of that, because of the way that he kind of transformed it. It was just timing that we couldn't get him when we were in New York, when we interviewed Dion. But Dapper Dan, of course, took that to a whole new level as well.
I just watched an amazing documentary called The Remix about, fashion and hip hop, and, Dapper Dan is featured in it. What are your thoughts when you think about this title, this narrative of cultural appropriation? What happened with Gucci and Dapper Dan, or Dapper Dan and Gucci? What are your thoughts around that conversation and Gucci, bringing in Dapper Dan into the big conversation of mainstream fashion?
Well, it's so fascinating that went full circle, right? That he was taking the logos and sort of using it back on them. Like, so you're creating luxury that you say that we can't have at the street level, so we're going to go ahead and steal it and turn it into something. And then Gucci, all these years later, turns around and hires him to be their lead designer. You're like, it's just a fascinating circle.
But to
It
answer
is so amazing. I'm sorry.
your question, I think we look to Pierre Cardin because, he was the first to, like when The Simpsons came out and there was all that illegal merchandise, right?
Oh, yeah.
There, right, same thing. When he started over licensing, a lot of people started just creating his junk and putting his name on it. He never gave a crap about that. He said, let him. I'm glad I inspired him.
Yeah.
That's what it's about. That's what it's about.
Creation is a sign of respect and a sign that I made a difference.
And if you have creativity within yourself, you're going to make something new. So that they're copying what you've already done is only a tribute, and then off you go.
It's exciting for him, and he's like, "That's why I do it. I want people to do this. I want designers to copy me. I want people to discover their own creativity through trying to emulate what I've done."
Yeah, with Jean-Paul Gaultier,
Jean-Paul Gaultier
emphasized breasts. So he put circles around them and did some sort of interesting things with clear fabric around to show like the bra underneath, etc. And Gaultier admits himself that he was sort of Cardinified and started just designing as somebody who worked under him, started just seeing things. And Cardin encouraged him. He said, that's yours, take it further, go all the way with it. And you end up with like his incredible, Madonna conic bras.
And here's another
amazing
great story. He was very good friends with Paco Rabanne.
Oh, I love Paco Rabanne too. Oh, this, I wish I had more time with you two. Oh my goodness.
Pierre was the one who had that idea to do kind of that credit card dress where you put all things together.
Yeah.
And said, wow, that's really cool. And Pierre said, run with it. And then Paco Rabanne started doing those brilliant mirror ball dresses, right, with the metal circles.
Yeah.
So it's never that he thought, that's my idea, how dare you? He's always like, you like it? Do something with it. It's not, ideas are a dime a dozen. It's what you do with them that counts.
To me, that's what fashion is about. Fashion is not about how expensive something is, whether or not you can afford the label, etc. It's self-expression. We wear uniforms every day. We tell people who we are through what we wear. And so when you see someone who just has that flair, you say, I know who that girl is.
This was an amazing interview, such a well-executed documentary. you know, highlighting one of the greatest fashion icons of our time. We're so grateful for your creativity, and continued blessings and success to both of you.
Thank you so much, Tanisha. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Et lui, il continue à créer, à faire.
Quel est ton secret pour la jeunesse éternelle? Travailler. Work, work, work.
Ce que l'on demande à un grand couturier n'est pas de faire une très belle robe bien essayée et bien faite. On lui demande de modifier la face du monde par la structure du vêtement, par la coupe et par la ligne.